Okay, hello chess players. In this video, I'm going to discuss something kind of interesting. I want to talk about positions where you seem like you have a whole bunch of different good moves that you can play, and you don't know which move to play. And I'm basically going to show you how really strong players, how masters, grandmasters, and even world champions make those decisions and make sure that they win games and don't throw away games that they should have otherwise won by making some bad decision. Anyways, if you like content like this and you want to see more of it, please click on that subscribe button and click on your notification icon. So here's the thing. When you're getting to a position like this, for example, this was taken from Fischer versus Larsen, played in the Interzonal back in 1958. Fischer was playing the white pieces. Perfect is kind of the enemy of good. Uh, you really just need to make sure that you win the game and you don't make some horrible mistake in this position. So what you want to do is you want to find a move that works. You want to calculate it. You want to calculate it twice. You want to double check it. You want to triple check it. And you want to make sure that the calculation works. And then once you're sure, you just want to play it. Now, if you look at this position, there's two really obvious checks in this position. There's queen d6 check and queen h6 check. And the reason I'm showing you Fischer versus Larsen is because Fischer played the move queen to d6 in this position, check, and his opponent basically instantly resigned. The point is after king g7, rook g1 is coming, and you cannot save this position. Everything is falling. So Fischer really accurately calculated that, look, this is over. If bishop e7, queen h6 is checkmate, it's basically over. Now, all that being said, queen h6 check was a much better move. It won the game quicker, and it won it much more efficiently. Like on queen h6 check, if you have something like king e7, which is essentially forced, it's like the only move. If bishop g7, for example, this is mate on the spot. So it wins very rapidly. And if king e7, we're simply going to have queen h7, and there isn't a block. If you retreat, you're walking into checkmate. This is really clean. Now, does that mean Fischer should have played the move queen h6? Maybe. But when you get to that point in the game where everything looks good, your goal is simply to make sure that you win that game. Your goal is to simply find a move that works, double check it, triple check it, quadruple check it. Once you're positive that that move doesn't lose, don't spend a whole lot of time looking at 20 other moves. That's how people make mistakes. That's how people think themselves out of a really good move that actually works and then play something and then they miss something and then they suddenly lose. Or they just eat up a whole bunch of time on the clock. They get into time trouble and they play something really badly. So I got two more examples of this where people compromised and played the second best move. So the next example is also an example of Fischer doing this exact same thing. This is actually Fischer versus Gligoric. He had the white pieces in this position. And as you can see, there's kind of like this latent threat of queen captures g3. Now, Fischer actually has multiple ways he can win this position here. It's white to move, so just about any discovered knight check is going to be quite strong here. And the computer gives both knight c5 and knight c7 as both very, very good. Now, Fischer played the second best move in this position, but the second best move in this position prevents any available counterplay from black. He plays the move e5. That move prevents this queen from coming into g3. He knows that he's not going to get perpetualed, and he knows that the end result of the position is he's going to end up being up a lot of material. So did he find the perfect solution to the position? Maybe not, but he found a solution to the position. After e5, he calculated quite accurately. Okay, knight e5 takes, pawn captures e5, knight c5 check, king back, we take the bishop. Black still goes for the perpetual, trying to get that queen to come to g3, and then simply knight captures e4. This position is resignable. White is up two pieces. Easy win, everything is fine. And, White played, two or three more moves and then resigned. Queen e7, rook c3, b5, queen c2, he resigns. He could have resigned as soon as White was up two pieces, but, he played a few more moves. One more example of this, where somebody picks the suboptimal move. And this is a pretty good example. This is actually Garry Kasparov versus Anatoly Karpov, World Championship match 1990. So Garry Kasparov has got this position, and it's a really complicated position, and there's a lot going on. Now, what Garry Kasparov actually missed in this position was he missed a mate in 6, starting with the move knight to f7 check. So knight f7, queen f7, and then queen h6 check, bishop h7, rook takes a8 leads to mate, because we've got rook takes f8 coming, and there is no defense. Now, of course, there's a lot of pieces flying around the board in this position, and the continuation that Kasparov probably spotted first and double checked and triple checked was instead the move queen captures h6, which works amazingly well. It gets all the material off the board and gets a position where he's got a ton of value. Like queen captures, knight check, we have king here, takes check, queen g6 is forced, we check again, and then we finally take that rook. And then, of course, the last piece of the puzzle is he needs to get rid of this pawn. So after bishop e7, he just sort of lines up on the pawn, and he finds this final continuation of bishop takes d5, realizing that after knight takes d5, he's going to be grabbing that pawn on b2, and that's going to be good enough. So basically what I'm telling you is when you get to those really, really strong positions, like you're +6, +7, you've got a puzzle-like position at the end, you're trying to solve for mate. You don't always have to find checkmate. You don't always have to find the absolute perfect continuation. You really just need to find a continuation that works. You need to double check it, you need to triple check it, and then you need to play it, because at the end of the day, that result is what really, really matters. And making sure that you don't miscalculate in those positions where you have a huge advantage is much more important than making sure that you find the perfect move. Anyways, I hope you found this video helpful, useful, and learned something new about chess. Thank you very much for watching.